Craig, obviously you've been on a 3-game winning streak.
Yeah.
You knew Houston was going to be a tough game, but how do you kind of not allow that to kind of drag things down?
Yeah, I was disappointed. They're really, really good. Obviously, the nation's longest winning streak at 33 now. Was hoping we'd perform certainly better than we did. So we just got to learn from it and grow from it. We did have a nice little run there with the three-game winning streak, and all good things must come to an end. But we got to learn and grow. It's easy. You got to have a little bit of amnesia, as Fran Fraschilla always likes to say, and you got to be able to move on. So, we have a stretch now with that game being delayed a day, 3 games in 7 days or 8 days. So, and then the rare homestand, right, where you have back-to-back home games coming up against 2 very good teams. So we got to learn and grow from it. Some very correctable things out there. Obviously, at the end of the day, their athleticism. And, I said in the pregame show, it feels like when you're watching Houston, and we played them last year, and, at South Dakota, at Utah State, and, of course, last year. So we have a feel for them, but, it's hard to replicate their speed, their athleticism, their length. That's the thing. Their big guys can really, really move, and they're super long and twitchy. As they say in the NFL, they're very sudden or very twitchy with what they do. But I thought we lost our poise, lost our composure a bit, and that's the passer and the receiver. And I'm mainly talking about offense because obviously when you turn it over 26 times and they shoot 17 more shots than you, it's going to be very difficult to win. So we got to learn from it and grow from it and carry it forward against Baylor because we had some of the same issues, quite frankly, when we played Baylor in Game 1 of Big 12 play.
Houston not only has great athleticism, but they just seem really detailed, really exact, precise in how they executed both offensively and defensively. How do you kind of not mimic that, but how do you embody that same?
Yeah, I mean, they're first of all defensively they're everywhere, right? They're going to trap ball screens. They're the way they rotate, and there's openings, but you got to be able to find them, right? You got to be able to find them, and so with certain lineups, with certain guys, our spacing wasn't where it needed to be. Other guys, our spacing was really, really good, and it was better. You know what I mean? And we missed some clean shots, but they get you sped up. It's hard to assimilate. We don't have that athleticism up and down our lineup, so it's very difficult to assimilate that, right? And then offensively, they have really good guard play. You know what I mean? They all can shoot it, pass it, they handle pressure. They hit some tough shots early, I thought, which certainly helps build some confidence that way. They went inside, which we've been really good about defending the rim, in the paint, whether it's dribble penetration or our post defense. Been really, really good with that. Last night, got away from us a little bit. It was a bit uncharacteristic, I felt like. And so I thought Milos Uzan had a really good game. He made an official visit to us. He's really starting to figure things out for them and get comfortable with what they're trying to do. But at the end of the day, what we got outscored 28-14 in the paint. We've been really doing a good job scoring in the paint and production, but they bring doubles all the time. We didn't handle that very well the way we needed to. So it's got to get better. Some things that we hadn't been doing for a while showed up, and then we got to be more precise on the offensive end against teams that get into you like that. You know what I mean? We got to be able to get into our offense. We got to be able to get into an operating area and be better with that. And certainly last night they pushed us off our spots, and we were not able to get to where we need to go to be as good as we can be or as efficient as we need to be on the offensive end.
On the stat sheet, there were some kind of similarities how the Houston and Baylor games have played out. But when you look at those two teams, kind of how are they similar? How are they different? What kind of adjustments are going to be from going from Houston to Baylor?
Yeah, well, the similarities is they got some juice, right? They have 4 guards that can really make plays, right? A projected top 5 pick, who's really dynamic, very athletic, plays the 3 and the 4. Roach was a 2-time captain at Duke, and he can get it going. The Wright kid is really. He's probably going to be an NBA player. He's dynamic. Started 2 games ago. And Jaden Nunn is one of the top 3-point shooters in the country, and he's a defensive-minded guy. So their perimeter is very, very athletic, similar to Houston that way. they're not like crazy trapping and going out, but they're going to switch 1 through 5. So there's going to be times their 5 is going to be guarding our point guards, and their point guards are going to be guarding our 5 men, and we got to be able to handle that switching defense better than we did last time. And then we got to be tough with the ball. Last time, if I remember right, they scored 25 points off of our turnovers, and so taking care of the ball is going to be a premium. And then defensively, same type of stuff. We got to be able to sit down and guard. You got to be able to stay in front of the ball. Got to have better position defense. We say guard your yard, and then they can get to the offensive glass, similar to Houston. So they're different. At the same time, there's a lot of similarities in terms of the sheer athleticism that they have up and down the lineup. And then the last one, number 15 for them, transferred from Miami. Now, granted, he's played 5 years, but I believe he's the 14th player in the history of college basketball to have 2,000 points and over 2,000 points and over 1,500 rebounds. Like, that's insane. And that's the reason only 14 guys have done it. Granted, he's had the 5th year, but he is a load, and he plays the 4 and the 5. So we got to be able to somewhat, I don't know if you can neutralize, but you got to somewhat neutralize him.
You can't suddenly become more athletic,
right?
In a couple days.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So how do you go about counterpunching that athleticism?
We got to be like we got to be tougher. You got to have physicality. You got to get your work done early. And some of that's anticipation, playing more physical. We've been doing a better job of that. We have, but it got to a point the other night, last night, where it was almost like we were a little. And I hadn't seen that look for a while. We had some guys that were just like, what just happened kind of thing. And that's and then we had some guys that really dug in, you know what I mean? And it's a mindset. So you got to be worried about the process, do things the right way, but also you have to have an elite mindset and a warrior spirit and a competitive spirit. And it's easy to talk that out, but you got to crave that when things aren't going good, right? And being able to get through that kind of stuff and not let all the other stuff, get to you, whatever that stuff might be, right? Whether it's good officiating, bad officiating, physicality, just all the above, staying connected and being where your mind is at. And I do feel like the last 4 games, we've been really good at that. The first 2 games in the league, maybe not as much, right? And so, and then we just got to execute better. You know what I mean? Like when you're supposed to go set a screen, set the screen, not bail out of it, right, at the last second. Like that doesn't win. Right? Being the first on the floor, attacking a rebound with 2 hands consistently, you know what I mean? Making hits. Now we did do a solid, we got 15 offensive rebounds. That's hard to do against Houston. And part of me is like, well, there was a lot of rebounds to miss. And there was, but we also had 17 less shot attempts than Houston. Got to take care of the ball. There's a reason, it's interesting. 2 of our 4 road games, Iowa State has the 2nd longest winning streak in the country. And Houston has the longest winning streak in the country. So to beat those types of teams or give yourself a chance, you don't have to be perfect, but there's some do's and don'ts. And we certainly had a lot of the don'ts, number 1 being turning it over.
Any other questions for Coach?
Big picture question, how much of this comes back to recruiting, right? Closing the gap in terms of the talent between you and the top 3.
Yeah, there's no doubt, being in the Big 12 now for the first time and going through this 7 games in, there's definitely, I want to say a learning curve, but it's a different league. And there's no doubt, as we move forward, we got to keep adding more athleticism without a question, more playmaking ability, right? Where guys can just go make a play. Now we have some of that, but we need more, right? We need more juice, right, so to speak. And so, because those top teams are really good. It's interesting getting ready for Houston because they're ranked 7th. Like, how can you not be, they're not like under the radar, but in a weird way they are under the radar. Like nobody's talking about them because they had 3 losses early. 1 to Auburn, who's number 1 in the country by 2, right? Another one in overtime to Alabama by 5. And another one to San Diego State by 3, I think, in overtime. So they're a smidgen. And what they really have, and they've done a good job of, they keep their guys. Like they have very, very little turnover in that program. So there's real continuity. You asked the question earlier about, like executing in your scheme. Well, those guys, most of those guys, except for Uzan, they've all been there. Right? So they know exactly where you're trying to get. They know exactly what guys can do. You've seen the development of Roberts, for example. His development is very clear and concise. And now we did a solid job on him. He had a couple of really tough shots, but he does that. But they've been starting to play through him. Last night they didn't as much. It went more through Cryer and Uzan. So yeah, like we got to be able to get a higher level, right? You just got to keep going. And I love our guys, but it's easy to see like we need a little more, right, with some things. But I'm still excited about. I mean, this team, we're 7 games in. You asked the question. We just got to keep pushing forward, right? We have some really good. This team has some really great traits and winning qualities, and so now we got to go back to work today in practice.